The annual meeting of the Medford Historical Society and Museum in May of 2015 was a wonderful event. If you weren't able to be there, we've prepared a short video of the proceedings. It consists of Michael Chesson's speech and the presentation of the Volunteer of the Year Award to Beth Hayes, as well as the reports from various committee chairs. I missed the introduction by President John Anderson of our speaker and the first few sentences, but he picks up where we begin here.
So it's with some trepidation that I talk about a man for all seasons. Samuel Crocker Lawrence was born in Medford on November 22nd, 1832, the son of Daniel and Elizabeth Crocker Lawrence. He attended Lawrence Academy. He was in the Harvard class of 1855 with Phillips Brooks, Alexander Agassiz, Frank Sanborn, who you may know from John Brown's Secret Six, Robert Treat Payne, and Theodore Lyman. Lawrence went to Chicago and entered the banking world as a partner at Bigelow & Lawrence, and the bank was a success, but in 1858, he answered his father's pleas to come back to Medford. He joined the rum distillery owned by his family since 1824, which became Daniel Lawrence and Sons. He was the sole proprietor from 1867 to 1905 when he closed the business. I've been confused about a few things preparing this paper, primarily Samuel C. Lawrence's military record. At Harvard, he is said to have joined the Massachusetts State Militia, the best trained of all northern militias, according to one of my students at UMass Boston in his MA thesis. Lawrence was commissioned a lieutenant in 1855. Whether this was during his senior year at Harvard or just after he graduated, I don't know. I also don't know if he was able to maintain his affiliation with the Massachusetts militia while he was in Chicago. Maybe he commuted home to attend musters. Some sources say that he commanded the Lawrence Light Guard, named for his father, during the war. That's incorrect. Nevertheless, it's in the introduction to the landscapes of the Civil War, that statement. Normally, it was captains who led companies in the Civil War, not colonels. And the Lawrence Light Guard became part of the 5th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, a 3-month regiment. As a 28-year-old colonel, or 28-year-old banker, he became the colonel of the 5th Massachusetts, probably on July 23rd, 1860 in Medford. When the regiment volunteered for service in 1861, his unit of 48 officers and 717 men left Boston on the 21st of April, arrived in Washington on April 28th, and was billeted in the Treasury Building. Like many of those early regiments, they stayed in the U.S. Capitol, they stayed in a variety of government buildings across the federal district. Lawrence and most of his men mustered into service on May 1st, 1861, and their term expired at the end of July, so a 3-month or 90-day regiment. Colonel Lawrence led his men at Bull Run. They were fueled by sandwiches provided by a U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, Henry Wilson. Maybe he provided beverages as well, I'm not sure about that. But there's no doubt that Colonel Lawrence was at Bull Run in combat, as documented by Colonel William B. Franklin's after-action report. Franklin was commander of the 1st Brigade, 3rd Division, in General McDowell's Army. Some sources say Colonel Lawrence was seriously wounded and even left for dead on the battlefield after a charge in Henry Hill. Other sources say it was a minor wound. Lawrence was commissioned Brigadier General of Volunteers in 1862, June of that year, and he resigned his commission in 1864. In 1869, he was elected a captain of the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company and was a member until his death. He also belonged to the Military Order of the Loyal Legion, known to many of us as Mollusks. And he was a member of GAR Outpost 66, which was named for him. I can only give a brief outline of his post-war activities. This man was energy personified. After the Panic of 1873, Lawrence served various railroads as a director of the Eastern, Maine Central, St. Johnsbury and Lake Champlain, Washington County, Somerset, and Boston and Maine. He helped in the second and successful reorganization of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, and he was the senior surviving trustee of the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company. A staunch Republican and one of your leading residents, Lawrence became Medford's first mayor when it incorporated in 1892. He'd been appointed a trustee of the public library in 1868 and a commissioner of sinking funds in 1878 and chaired both bodies until his death. General Lawrence bought hundreds of books and artworks for the library and chaired its board for 43 years. He spent over $500,000 fighting the gypsy moth in Medford and Middlesex County and saved the fells for public use. His struggle with the gypsy moth, he may have felt personally responsible for this creature. One of the Medford history sites that I found online says that it escaped from the house of a French astronomer who was trying to develop a better type of silkworm, and some of the moths got out. Lawrence was one of the most prominent Masons in the country, rising to become most worshipful Grand Master of Massachusetts in 1881, and a 33rd degree Mason in 1884. During the winters, while we suffered up here, he was on his large grapefruit farm near Miami. General Lawrence died in Medford on September 24th, 1911, full of years and honors, and he was buried in Mount Auburn Cemetery. Along with a generous bequest to various Masonic groups, he left $50,000 in his will for Harvard scholarships for deserving Medford students. He gave another $50,000 for the Lawrence Light Guard, Company E of his old 5th Regiment, along with the armory that he built for them. Lawrence Academy and the Universalist Church got generous gifts. He was a member of that church. I suspect that for most of you, General Lawrence's greatest legacy is his enormous collection of Civil War photographs, one of the largest in the world. Medford's holdings are unlike those of the Library of Congress, the National Archives, and the Carlisle Barracks. It was a private collection, assembled by General Lawrence and a fellow Union veteran from Boston, Lieutenant Arnold Augustus Rand. And I found some information on Lieutenant Rand, or Colonel Rand, along with General Lawrence. When he joined up in 1861 as a lieutenant, Arnold Rand occupation is listed as gentleman. He wasn't a doctor, lawyer, engineer. He didn't work for a living. Those were the days. As those of you who worked on the photographic project know, there are 928 large format landscapes of battlefields, encampments, military group portraits, cities, and other places in the South. Some of them may be unique, according to the grant proposal that your president sent me. Landscape sounds like an art critic's term, or maybe a photographic curator's term, because the soldiers would have called these scenes terrain, and it was usually bleak, often treeless, and chewed up by huge armies and the awful power of war. There are about 2,000 small carte de visite, or CDVs for those in biz, studio portraits of Union soldiers, about 2 by 4 inches, visiting cards, or in the American parlance, calling cards. Also shown on these CDVs are women, children, Confederates, and slaves. And there are 750 half stereographs, mostly landscapes, but a few people and animals. And some in that group may also be unique. I've asked several Civil War experts, Len Riddell, Ellen Hannon, others, what they think of the Medford collection. All agree that it's an extremely valuable and important group of wartime images. One said that it's a window into 19th century America, which also tells us a lot about early photography. Collecting photographs is a hobby, like my baseball cards when I was a boy. General Lawrence had the bug more than most, and his passion led to a comprehensive collection in one place. The Civil War folks I talked to don't know of another private collection from the 19th century that approaches Medford's. The persons in many of these photographs are unknown, as well as when and where the images were taken. Digitization and online presentation will be a 19th century version of Where's Waldo? I can't wait to start. Making the pictures available worldwide will help identify many individuals and perhaps solve other mysteries. Finally, remember what track coaches preach. Don't collapse at the finish line. Burst across it. As the project nears completion and you prepare to make it public, blow your own horn, long and loud. Publicize your accomplishment and your enormous contribution to Civil War studies. As Vice President Biden would say, it's a big deal. Having been involved in 2009, I can say that I've never worked with people as intelligent, enthusiastic, and as genuinely engaging as the comrades I met at the Medford Historical Society. You all deserve thanks for those who care about the great American Civil War. So bravo, well done, hearty congratulations.
Hi, that was a really wonderful introduction, and I think that's right. A lot of people deserve thanks, and it really is a very exciting project. So I'll give you the very latest on our work on it. So this, as mentioned, is the collection of photographs and prints that have belonged to Samuel Crocker Lawrence. They were donated to the Society in 1948 and then rediscovered years later.
1992.
1992. So for the past few years, we've been looking for a way to get them digitized or scanned and placed online so the public could enjoy the images while the paper prints sit safely in the climate-controlled vault that they were running across the street, which we are very thankful to our friends across the street. So digitization, as it turns out, is complex and expensive for a collection of this size. We had several private gifts that made possible the conservation of the photos and the cataloging of them. But so far, funding for the digitization has been elusive. Then we pursued a new avenue called the Digital Commonwealth. And this is turning out to be our new plan. The Digital Commonwealth is an interesting and ambitious undertaking. It's located at the Boston Public Library, and it's the Boston branch, if you will, of a larger entity that you may have come across online called the Internet Archive. And that's a cooperative of foundations and universities, and their purpose is to digitize many, many materials, including books, video, audio, and historic items, and share them with the public on the web. So although the Digital Commonwealth in Boston is fairly new, they have very good credentials, state-of-the-art equipment, and a quality online presentation for the other institutions that have signed on with them. So their goal is to share materials with the public for free, and as long as we meet that criterion, they will do the digitizing and no charge. Wow. That's great. So the price is right, and since their mission is the same as our mission, we think this should be a good match. As mentioned, once digitized, there'll be many possibilities for the images. Many possibilities will come up as it becomes practical to flip through them digitally, so to speak, and sort them and study them and enjoy them in a way that you can't do very easily physically. So at the moment, we're having the legal end of things worked out before we proceed with the digitization, and we are thankful to our attorneys at Burns and Levinson who are providing us this service pro bono. So it is likely that the project will be complete within the next 6 to 12 months. You can watch our newsletter for more updates on this exciting project, and thank you very much.
Thank Allison, because getting this, figuring out which will come up and all of this has been a great deal of work. So give her a round of applause. If you have an opportunity to look at Digital Commonwealth, there are a number of Medford things up there. The Mass Water Resources Authority posted a ton of pictures of pipes in Medford, but there is also a really tremendous picture of elephants in the Mystic River. It makes me very happy. They were Ringling Brothers circus elephants in Boston who went for a bath. So take a look at it and get an idea of what's there. If you put in Medford, there are some very interesting street scenes that you probably haven't seen before. Anyway, our collection, as you all know, has a lot of stuff in it. And we have been basically chipping away at this for 10 years. It is a glacial process, but every year we do really well because we have a lot of people who love Medford and love Medford history who come and give us hours and hours of their time and do stuff. So this year, the highlights, Joan Quigley, who is sitting there in blue, loves to read 19th and 18th century handwriting. She loves it, and she's good at it. So we actually have a Lydia Mariah Child manuscript that is a one-off. It's a unique, it's been in the safe. So Joan went through it, and it's in handwriting. So Joan went through it and did a transcription this year. And it's a bit of a scrapbook with some poems and things she liked, and it's paintings and things like that. It's actually it's a unique piece, which you should have that one sometime. But the Garden Club came over and took a look at it because it's a floral, what is it? It's a floral something.
Souvenir.
Floral souvenir. So that was something this year. The other thing was Ryan Wheeler and Peter Escott, Ryan is he was an archaeologist in Florida, and he teaches at a school, and Peter Escott, who was one of our big Civil War people, did our Native American collection, which was wonderful to have done because that's a real specialist collection, and Ryan, that's one of his specialties. So we're very happy to have that done, and there is a display out in the hall that is new to us. We have quite a few things because there was a thriving Native American population here. We do actually have the skeletons and some bones of Native Americans that we are trying to have repatriated, but the Bureau of Indian Affairs doesn't call us back. However, that'll be something for this year. Other things we did. Medford rum has come back. That's our rum cabinet. A couple of years ago, these young guys came in. They were looking to see if we had the recipe for Medford rum, which no one has. But we think it's them. Last year, the Grand 10 Distillery in Dorchester announced they were brewing Medford rum. So it's not the original recipe because they don't have that, but they are brewing it. You can buy it. I think you can buy it at Chappie's, can't you? Yes.
And they assured me it's a colonial recipe.
It's a colonial recipe.
Period of cooking.
Now, the water's different, so I suspect the bacteria counts a lot. So that's something. And we really need to have a rum tasting and have a fundraiser, so come to that when we have it. The Civil War collection that used to be hanging out in the front hallway, which was bullets and buckles and all these things, Jay Stott and Joan and
Gerald.
Jackie, I know it's Jean. I've been working on that for several years. We have 400 plus entries in our inputting system. I never thought those would get out of the front hall, so I think that's like, if I die today, I will be happy about that. That's a great thing because the Lawrence Light Guard people who were in the Civil War donated that stuff. So it really is sort of connected to the whole, the photographs may have come from somewhere else, but we have quite the Civil War collection. It's pretty unique. What else? Foster Boynton collection, which is 2 giant boxes. Brandon, how do you pronounce your last name? Chaya, okay. Brandon, actually his girlfriend, who was right there, came up to me at Community Day last year and said, my boyfriend wants to volunteer. And I said, have him call me. So the Foster Boynton collection, they were families from Medford they packed up 2 giant boxes of Victorian stuff and mailed it to us. So he's been working on that for a number of months. That's a very interesting one. What else? Oh, one of the nice things is when someone who comes here to do research produces something based on it. Last year there was a family history of some ship captains. This year, do you have the book, Joan? This lady came, I swear 10 years ago, looking for information on Sarah Bradley Fulton, who was a Revolutionary War figure here, about whom there was very little information. And she's someone that small children come in looking to do a report on all the time, and there's no information. So, Brenda Elvis, she came here, she visited us. She actually lives in Maryland or Minnesota. She's spoken to Dee Morris frequently. She went to the Royal House and went through the thing. She said thank you to you, Tom, and she finished the book. So now we have a book on 2 books this year, but we now have a book on Sarah Bradley Fulton, which is great. And I've skimmed through it, and her research is top notch. So there will be circulating copies of that at the library shortly. Also this year is the new Middlesex Fells book in the Arcadia Press series. A lot of our photographs are in that, which you have good. There you go. Which you wrote. I knew you looked familiar.
We're having a talk on June 29th, right?
At my library, yes. So congratulations on that. That's another great one.
And you include some photographs from our Native American collection, and
Oh, good.
Dr. Fox sort those as well.
So that is another wonderful thing. There's a lot going on. We're also collaborating with Mackie to do periodic exhibits here in the room. We did one in the winter, December, January, that was Medford in winter, which was very good. This is that case has some things from our collection from winter because we haven't changed it yet. Time moves slowly at the Medford Library, but we're going to continue to do that. They will be doing another exhibit in July called Domestic Life. We pulled some dishes and hats and things from our collection. The Nike artists are being encouraged to create art based on that inspiration. So July 22nd, I think? July 10th. Good. They will be drinking, so that's good. Also, I think it's here. Is there one under here, Allison? Tufts University gave us giant flat files. You can see it. So we now have a couple of giant flat files for storage, which is a wonderful thing. And we've, Allison and volunteers moved a lot of things around in the basement. And we recently got a donation from Florida. I forget where they were, but this woman called, and someone had given them, at some point in history, a file full of documents from Medford in the 19th century. And she said, do you want them? And I said, of course I want them. So she mailed them to us. And we think they belong to Parker Litchfield, who was the city treasurer in the 1880s, 1890s. They are things like the receipt for the construction of the 19th century Medford City Hall. They're really cool. And Joan is going to decipher them for us because they're in that kind of handwriting. But that was a great thing on her part. Where are we at? Oh, the other thing is, the organization of knowledge is a complicated process. We have an online catalog of sorts called Past Perfect. And Past Perfect is built for museums that are the size of the Smithsonian and museums that are made out of a closet. So the number of ways you can push things into it is vast. And we've struggled with this for a number of years, trying to figure out if we should be Smithsonian level or closet level, and Allison and I and a whole bunch of other people decided, we should just find our own level. So one of the major things she's done this year, I'm almost done, is to make entry guidelines so that from now on, volunteers will be able to much more easily put the materials in, because we still have a long way to go. And if any of you are really bored or inspired, please come and put stuff in, because we need that. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Barbara has been with the Historical Society longer than I have.
11 years.
Been here through good times and less good times. Soldiered on, no matter what. I'm going to just speak briefly about the Peter Tufts House. For those of you who get the newsletter, you've seen what's been happening there. Basically, a long-time tenant moved out, and the building needed a lot of updating just to make it suitable for new tenants. The biggest problem was that the electricity was all knob and tube. There wasn't a three-prong outlet grounded outlet anywhere in the house. And upstairs I found a room air conditioner with one of those little 3-prong to 2-prong converters. So we spent a lot of money on the house. All of it adds value to the house. What we're still dealing with is whether or not we're in a position to keep the house. I should mention, General Lawrence keeps popping up. Lawrence was involved with this house. He saved it from being destroyed and refurbished it in the 19th century. He did a very thorough refurbishing, I should add. And a lot of the interior was replaced with the colonial revival style. And one of the things we've been looking at is trying to determine what parts of the house are original and what it means. We got a grant from the National Trust to help us determine the best use for the house. And Claire Dempsey has been real key in doing that. Claire Dempsey is a professor at Boston University, and she got together a panel of experts who met, went over, looked at the house, and they're going to be submitting a report shortly with some recommendations as to what to do with the house. But the thing I want to talk about mostly tonight was the effort to get the building ready to be rented, which involved the electricity. There was some plumbing issues. The sewer drain was plugged. The kitchen sink didn't work. The bathroom was in bad shape. The list went on and on. And Beth Hayes volunteered to be chair of the committee that has taken charge of the house. And in, was it 1 month or 6 weeks, she went from 0 to 60 miles an hour. I couldn't believe it that the house was ready for the tenants to move in September 1st. So Beth is our volunteer of the year. And you can take your grandchildren out to lunch.
A fun project to do. It may not be fun to everybody. Really, I understand that. But it really was a challenge, and I had wonderful people working with me. I especially want to thank John, because he seemed to be on call 24 hours when I needed them.
Who?
And the other person who was there all the time, on call whenever I picked up the phone, was Ryan Hayward. He couldn't have been better. Every time I couldn't make it, off he went, down his street, and over with the key. He took care of things, shoveled snow, mowed lawns, whatever that. In fact, he and I spent Labor Day weekend in 90-degree weather cleaning the house, the two of us. And we got the tenants in there, and they came in on my day. Without Ryan.
Where's Ryan? Oh, he's not here. Yes.
If they're tenants, who shows the house? Or are they,
Well,
do they let people come in? Like at the Brooks Estates?
Yeah, the tenants are very cooperative. And they were perfectly happy to have this group of experts come in and tour the house.
I didn't mean that, I meant regular tours.
Well, we started regular tours about 6 or 7 years ago. And the first year we had 20 or 30 people. The next year we had about 10 or 12 people. And the numbers declined every
This
year.
is the Tufts house,
Yes,
right on Riverside Avenue?
yes. We haven't planned on opening it for tours this summer. If we decide to keep the house, we'll reinstate that. Were you interested in going?
I just want to know what's been happening.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I used to take my classes there, and I remember, I can't think of her name.
this is Lorraine. She's still alive. Her husband passed away.
So I used to take the classes there, and she used to show us with the slaves. I mean, it was a great place for the school kids.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Well, maybe we could do that.
Why don't you let Beth respond?
Yes.
I think sometime during the summer, we're starting to work on that. Heather and I are starting to do it. work to see what kind of a garden we're gonna put there. Right now, we have, I don't know what we have. We had a group that came from the city and mowed everything we wanted mowed in September, and it's starting to grow up again. But anyway, we're gonna plant a garden with the garden club. And sometime during the summer, we'd like to have a couple of work days, and at that time, I'll make sure the tenants put away their laundry and people can go to the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As well as shepherding the Civil War collection, Allison Andrews has also been very active in our educational outreach, and I just wanted to give her a chance to say a couple of words about what she's been doing.
It's been actually a pretty busy year with the education items and volunteers, members volunteering to do projects. So the first thing I want to update on is something called Our Medford, which is an introductory illustrated text for third graders. It's being written by a Brooks school teacher named Mike Coates, who's been teaching Medford history to the third graders for years. So we had received the Medford Arts Council grant to produce an online teaching material, and then we shifted to the project to become this book called Our Medford, because Mike knows exactly how to write for the third graders, and he knows just what sort of content they need. So we have a team of editors from the society here. Some of them are local authors, and we gave a draft to the school department, and so far the reaction is favorable. And the content of this text follows the school department's social studies guidelines. So we're hoping that they will incorporate it into their curriculum. And we're also hoping that they will cover the cost of having the vocational school printed. The second project is called the Historic Newscast, and this is a script where characters from history become news anchors and interviewees, and they react around an event of the day, in this case, Paul Revere's Ride. The script was developed by our member Don Janchowitz, who has produced such a thing before, and he has adapted it for Medford, and has written the script, and we are hoping that the schools are going to be favorable about using that as well. That's written at the high school level, but adaptable to other grades and other topics. We completed our 5th year of the local history through artifacts, which Peter Escott is our a Civil War guy, but also a retired teacher, and he gives the talk to the third graders, and we bring out artifacts and reproductions and show them. And we saw all the third graders from the 4 schools last year, and we're in the middle of doing presentations again now. And the very last thing is just a few other visits with kids. We had the Gracework kindergarten come by to learn about the Over the River story. We had some 1st grader Boy Scouts who came to learn about life in the olden days, which we brought out household items and reproductions and let them find out what it was like. And we had a Girl Scout troop who came, and they explored some literally crumbling copies of the 1928 Medford Mercury, which we were throwing out because they're just crumbling and they've already been microfiched. So they came in and they went through and they picked out the articles that they were interested in, and they made a scrapbook, which is here. They called themselves the Medford Mercury Publishers. So it's very cute. It's lots of funny, interesting old ads and articles about life in 1928, which was kind of the same. Thanks.
Start with the inquiries that come in. In 2014, we had 110 inquiries come through our MHSM website to be answered by our volunteers. Since then, we've also started tracking emails and phone calls because we actually get an awful lot of those. The most popular questions are about Medford homes, properties, business histories, or addresses and activities of grandparents and great-grandparents. But many, many other kinds of questions come in as well. There are several people here, Barbara, Allison, Tina, who are active research volunteers who work on this with other people. So if any of you are interested in finding out more about how our queries work, particularly Kina in the doorway, talk to Kina. She even offers training in terms of all the good stuff that we have upstairs to look through to be able to answer questions and whatnot. So please, we welcome more volunteers. On programs or events, Barbara Kerr and I work on programs, as does Kina, who is the previous chair. Highlights this year, without question, number one was Letters to Medford, a play about the future according to the written by Kina and produced by Two Roads Productions. It was excellent. Right up there in attendance, the Oak Grove Cemetery Walking Tour, Friendly Spirits, with Dee Morris. The 6th annual bike tour, organized by Kina. And both collection chats. The Great Man's Chamber Pot and Half a Hull is Better Than None, presented by our own Barbara Kerr. Our Valentine's Tea, produced by 17 volunteers, raised $742 in spite of the fact that there was a major snowstorm. And other topics: historic homes, immigrant voices, Anthony San Marco's Lost Boston, and the myth of the Black Confederate soldier. We also work closely with Cachet, with the Medford Arts Center group, Mackey, and in your handouts there is a flyer for fall of a joint program that will be sponsored by MHSM, the Royal House and Slave Quarters, and the Public Library on September 15th, funded by the Medford Arts Council. So take a look at that flyer. We'll hope to see you there. So again, program committee always needs and is looking for volunteers.